What's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and we're going to end the week on a bit of a high here. I'm actually really excited about a new collaboration between Sony and a high-profile AAA studio, because this could potentially set us up for a return of a PlayStation dormant franchise that I've really wanted for a very long time, and I think a lot of you will really like this news as well. Now, this could also signal a new strategy for Sony. Of course, Sony has new leadership, and we're going to get into all of that today. Now, we also have a new update for the Nintendo Switch 2. So if you're excited for that console, which, I mean, you should be, because I think it's going to be pretty amazing, but make sure to stay tuned. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. You all are absolutely awesome, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's just go and get right into things, though, starting off with Final Fantasy 16. I mean, I know I just said that we're going to end the week on a bit of a high, but, you know, first, let's just go ahead and go over the bad news and just get it out of the way. And technically, there is an asterisk when it comes to this report. I'll circle back to that in just a moment, just kind of keep it in mind. But reportedly, a Japanese analyst claimed that the Square Enix president said that Final Fantasy 16 sold over 3.5 million units during its financial results briefing. And if this is actually true, and again, there is an if in this case, but if it's true, this is really bad. I mean, it shipped 3 million units, I believe, right around its first week. Now, it was only on the PS5 at the time, but, I mean, it's been close to 2 years since its launch, and it's also since come over to the PC as well. So, according to this report, it only sold 500,000 in that amount of time, and that's more than a little alarming if true. That not only would indicate a significant drop-off for a mainline Final Fantasy title, but it also highlights why you shouldn't do timed exclusive deals like this. I mean, from everything that we know, it did not sell well on PC, and I've said this before, but a lot of these staggered releases loses momentum that they would have otherwise had because they don't have the same marketing push and fan hype that a day one launch comes with. So it's just not a good strategy for these big third-party AAA games, especially when you have an established franchise like Final Fantasy. It just doesn't make a lot of sense given the outrageous budgets that we're seeing in the AAA space. At the same time, though, there are questions when it comes to the accuracy of this report. It's been pointed out that this question didn't appear in the financial meeting transcript, and it's also not specified as to when it sold more than 3.5 million units. So despite this report making the rounds, and that's really the main reason that we're talking about here, there's a good chance that you may have seen this elsewhere, you may have seen a report about it, but with this new information, I would take this report with a grain of salt, or at least until we get a more official response from Square Enix themselves. Now, we do have some good news for the PlayStation Portal and anybody subscribed to PlayStation Plus Premium. You know, this is a fun combo in the essence that you technically don't actually need a PlayStation 5 to play PS5 games, thanks to the Portal's cloud update from late last year. It's just a nice little combo. Honestly, I actually really like the Portal myself. I play it almost every day with really no issue whatsoever. For me, it actually feels like a near-native experience, but I also don't play on a cloud. So if you do, let me hear your experience in the comments below. Nonetheless, though, apparently almost every PS1 and PSP classic that's available on the PlayStation 5 is now available on the Portal thanks to a recent PlayStation Plus Premium Portal update. And I have to say that these are perfect fits for something like the Portal. PlayStation 1 games aren't graphically intense, and they just feel right at home on a handheld device. And then, of course, you know, PSP games, they translate perfectly because, well, you know, they were already handheld games in the first place, and now you can just kind of play them on a bigger handheld. Either way, it definitely seems like Sony is picking up steam when it comes to adding these cloud-based games. Now, if you're a fan of Space Marine 2, which was really a breakout fan favorite from last year, I mean, it sold very well. It was received incredibly well from both fans and critics alike. That's always a good sign. So this might not be all that surprising, but still, it is very, very welcome news because they just officially announced a sequel. Yeah, you can see their announcement here, which reads, "Your duty is not done. We're pleased to announce that the development for Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 3 has officially begun at Focus Entertainment." And you can see that they also confirmed that Saber Interactive will be the developer yet again. So, I mean, this is truly awesome news because Space Marine 2 was such a well-executed game. And a lot of times when we see these sequels, they get even better because the studio now has the confidence to up the ante even more. And they also learn from their past mistakes. They learn how to make their games better. So hopefully, Space Marine 3 will carry its momentum onward. But, you also have to kind of keep in mind here that this is a very early announcement. From what I understand, Space Marine 2 took about 4 years to develop, and we're probably going to see a similar time frame for Space Marine 3. So we're probably looking at about 2029 to 2030 before we get to play it ourselves. All right, so let's just go and get into this PlayStation story here, and I'm actually really excited about this one. I'll get into all of my reasons here in just a moment, but first, let's just go take a look at what's happening here. So you can see this report, which reads, People Can Fly has entered into a prototype development agreement with Sony Interactive Entertainment for cooperation in the production of a prototype of a new video game codenamed Project Delta based on intellectual property rights belonging to the publisher. The company's share price is rising by almost 13% on Friday morning. So you can actually read this in two different ways. One is that you can read it as some kind of collaboration. Maybe they're just kind of acting as a support studio for an upcoming PlayStation game. That is one way that you can read it. Then the other way that you can read it, and this is the way a lot of people are taking it currently, is that they're licensing out one of their franchises to People Can Fly. And this is something that we haven't seen very much from Sony here in the last few years. A lot of their recent third-party partnerships is more in line with exclusive publishing deals. Games like Stellar Blade comes to mind. And, I like new IP. Don't get me wrong here. I'm glad that they're working on games like that too. But at the same time, it's kind of a shame that they have this breadth of history that they don't utilize. I mean, PlayStation legitimately has some of the most beloved franchises in all of gaming. And a lot of those franchises we haven't seen in more than a decade. Their studios are focused on these newer franchises, which again, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I look at Nintendo, and I like the direction that they're taking. They're kind of leading by example here. They have a similar predicament that they don't have all of these studios to work on all of the beloved games that they have in their back catalog. But something that they've been doing is that they've been licensing out their games to third-party companies. Games like Luigi's Mansion 3, Metroid Dread, Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and Mario & Luigi Brothership all came from third-party studios. So I'd like to see PlayStation do something similar because there's a lot of potential. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. They're partnering up with People Can Fly, which is a respected AAA studio. They've worked on games like Gears of War Judgment, Bulletstorm, and most recently, they worked on Outriders. And that's really our first clue. If this is indeed for a dormant PlayStation franchise, obviously their bread and butter are shooters. And I mean, even his project name, being Delta, can be linked to the military. And that's really my first guess as to what this could be if it's actually for a dormant PlayStation franchise, and that's SOCOM. In fact, this would also fit into Sony's idea of live service games because SOCOM is well known for its multiplayer. I mean, I've been saying this forever. If they want to do live service games, okay, fine. But they have some IP in their back catalog that they could utilize. SOCOM was a big multiplayer hit back in the day. But there's a few other games that also comes to mind. My personal top two are Killzone and Resistance. Now, Killzone is actually one of my favorite franchises from Sony. I mean, I would go ballistic over a new Killzone game. And something of note here is that it recently made an appearance in Helldivers 2, so it does kind of seem like it's on their mind to some extent, and, it was a big hit back during the PS3 days. Now, it didn't exactly carry that momentum over into the PlayStation 4, but I think it's been long enough that this would drive a lot of hype online. Now, the one other game that comes to mind is Siphon Filter. Now, personally, I don't expect this to happen. I mean, it's a good series, and it does fit the criteria of being a shooter, but I just don't know if it has much of a market compared to some of the other games that I just mentioned. I think that they do have higher ceilings, but that's just my opinion. I mean, for all I know, this could be a Horizon online shooter because, we all know just how much Herman Hulst loves the Horizon franchise. I could see them doing some kind of spin-off for that, but, nothing can be ruled out for the time being. Like I said earlier, this could technically just be some kind of collaboration for a game that Sony is working on. Maybe they have a live service game, a brand new IP, and they want People Can Fly to act as a support studio, similar to how they're helping out with Gears of War E-Day. That is technically one possibility here. You can read this report in a number of different ways, but let me hear it in the comments below. If they are indeed working on a dormant franchise, what's the one PlayStation franchise that you would like to see from People Can Fly? Now, one last thing we're going to talk about is one of the most speculated things about the Nintendo Switch 2, and that's its price tag. A lot of people are kind of expecting a much higher price this generation from Nintendo. I have seen a lot of predictions that it's going to be right around that $500 price tag, but several analysts actually disagrees with that. This was reported on by Bloomberg, where they talked to several different respected analysts, and 3 of them predicted that it'll come in at $400. Now, it is important to keep in mind that one analyst from Toyo Securities disagreed and said that the original Switch's NVIDIA chip is estimated to cost $80 per unit, while the Switch 2's chip is likely to be in the $130 to $150 range. So they said they wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo goes ahead with $499. So there is still some disagreement with its price tag, and I thought they actually gave a pretty good reason as to why they feel that way. Even still, though, the majority seems to believe that it'll be $400, which, if true, would put them in a great position. That's only $50 more than the Switch OLED, and that makes its price look pretty incredible. I mean, to be fair here, the Switch probably should have, cut its price a long time ago, but it is what it is. It's been selling like hotcakes either way, and that's exactly how Nintendo views it. The other thing that they seem to have agreed on, though, is that Nintendo has plenty of supply for its first month. I know a lot of fans are concerned about this, but Robin Zhu, one of the analysts, actually predicted that they'll have 6 to 8 million units prepared for its first month alone, which is a staggering amount of consoles for launch. I mean, if that doesn't keep scalpers at bay, then I really don't know what else that they could do here. That's a lot of consoles, and this will put it at a record-breaking pace. But just to kind of put things into perspective, the PlayStation 5, which was sold out for months and months and months, that sold 3.4 million units in its first month. That was also during the holiday period. So if Nintendo can essentially double that number for its first month, yeah, that's a pretty good sign. And if anything else, this does align with the rumors that Nintendo has been stockpiling the Switch 2 for some time now. They even publicly said that they are doing their best to prepare for hopefully a smooth launch. I mean, we'll see what happens here, but it's not going to be all that long, and we'll get some official information from Nintendo themselves this April at the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.